Hello, Assalamu alaikum. I hope you all are fine. We are going to start our discussion in translation studies. So our today's lecture will particularly focus on the principles of translation. It is said that there is nothing devoid of principles. Everything is governed by principles. So everything functions according to certain principles and rules. So is the case with our subject, the translation studies. Translation studies is also not devoid of the principles. There are many principles in translation. It is rather said that there is many principles as the translators are there in the world. So we just will try to discuss about some major principles of translation, very important principles of translation as well. Our today's discussion particularly will focus on the principle of meaning. Meaning is very important subject in our discussion of translation. So without understanding meaning of any text, nobody is able to translate appropriately the source language text into target language text. So thinking and focusing on the principle of translation is a very core importance for us, is of core importance for us. That is very important for us, in other words. So it is said that understanding meaning sometimes depends on the understanding of the words, vocabulary. But there is a question. Is it really possible to understand meaning of the individual words, the words in isolation? For example, can we be able to understand the word such as dog when it is in isolation out of the context? We may understand the literal meaning of the words, but in translation this may be some problematic, because if you wish to translate the text properly near to the source language message or near to the source language text, we need to understand the meaning of the words not in isolation but in context or in social convention. So here the principle of meaning tells us that we may not be able to understand the words in isolation because they mean differently in isolation, and they mean differently when they are used in a certain context or in any convention. So we need to understand first the words in convention, in social context, how people translate them, interpret them, and how they have used in the text. So when we translate a source language text into target language text, we need to understand meaning first. So we must be careful about the translation of the words in context, not out of the context, and according to social conventions of the text. Now here the word context. Context means where the word is used. Number one, there may be a social context, means a place where the word is used. And number two, there is a linguistic context, means a place in text where the word is used. For example, so we may interpret word according to the context of the word. Number two, social conventions. Now conventions are normative habits or behaviors of the people. So how people habitually or normatively or normally interpret a certain word. For example, we Muslim people, for example, have a certain word, salah, for namaz, and this word may be translated into English as prayer. But a prayer word may have certain other connotative meanings as well, other than just focusing only on namaz or salah. So the social conventions in Muslim world, for example, is different of salah, and the prayer is different in other social convention, maybe in another country. For example, there are many other words which are interpreted and treated differently. For example, in certain cultures, the use of the word yar in Urdu and in other, for example, upper class of the people is a very normal word. They interpret it a very, frank symbol of frankness, interpreted as a symbol of frankness. Whereas yar is treated somehow very romantic or somehow very intimate word in certain context. So the words may give us different meanings in different contexts. Okay. So for example, another example of this word is there sanam. Like in some context, the word sanam is used for beloved. Maybe in Arabic or in certain other contexts, sanam is also said for the idol. Okay, so the words are very differently in different contexts. Okay, so we need to understand the words properly in different contexts. Another example here, when Latif says, "Ahe aryaniya bio sartyum sujeki naki, punana pujana in the Bible." Now here we need to understand what is the meaning of the word aryani. Its literal meaning may be different, and its conventional meaning may be different. Ahe aryaniya bio sartyum sujeki naki. There is aryani, maybe is a caste. Okay, is used for a person, maybe Punu. When Sasi says for Punu, "Ahe aryaniya bio sartyum sujeki naki," means there is only Punu for me and nobody else. Okay, and this text may be in religious context interpreted differently. For example, "Ahe aryaniya bio sartyum sujeki naki," this may be interpreted as that there is only one God, there is only God for me and nobody else is for me, and I cannot see anybody else for me other than God. So here the word is interpreted differently. In religious context, the same word aryani is used for God, and in romance or in romantic context, the word is used for punu. Okay, so here the principle of meaning tells us that we need to understand meaning first, meaning of the source language first. Then we start translating any text into target language. Now there are basic questions when we try to understand the meaning of the source language. The basic questions, for example, are: first of all, the translator should ask from himself or herself, is the meaning of the text is really clear? Means really he has understood the meaning? Okay, does he understand the meaning really? Number one. If he doesn't understand, then what is the problem in the source language text? He should interpret it according, understand it first. Okay. Number two, if the literal meaning of the words or sentences are okay enough for translating source language into target language, or do they mean something beyond the literal meaning, something different and something change? So first of all, these basic questions are very important for any translator. If you do not understand the meaning of the source language, it will not be possible for you to translate the text properly or appropriately to the into a target language. And your target language translation may look very different from source language translation when you do not understand the meaning of the source language text. Okay. Number three, you must ask, you means as a translator, must ask from yourself, is there any word or expression or phrase loaded with meaning, means full of meaning? If it is so, then how will you translate that text into target language? So try to understand the subtleties, the complexities of the source language text. Source language, that word which is loaded with the meaning. So words are very heavy sometimes in certain cultures. A single word may give us different meaning. A single phrase or idiom may be loaded with much meaning. So you need to understand that load of the meaning into source language, and then you can translate the text into target language. So summarizingly, we can say the principle of meaning focuses on understanding the meaning of the source language text first, and then translating that meaning into target language. While keeping in the mind the principle of meaning, a translator may ask such questions as, does he really understand the meaning of the source language text? Number two. Now, if he doesn't understand, then what is that which he does not understand? He needs to clarify that one. Number three question is there, is the literal meaning of the text okay? Means required in source language text, and then you can translate. If it is not okay, if literal meaning is not enough, try to dig out what is hidden in the text, what may be connotative, social or conventional meaning present in the source language text. Number three, maybe four, is there any word, phrase, expression, idiom loaded with the meaning? If it is so, try to understand that, interpret it that one, and then translate your text into target language. With this, see you in coming lecture with another principle in translation studies. Till then, take care, Allah Hafiz, and thank you so much.